I'm Alicia.
Standing here, looking at the chaos unfolding before me at my sister's wedding reception, I can't help but reflect on how we got to this point. The room is filled with shocked faces, whispered conversations, and the sound of chairs scraping as people try to make sense of what's just happened. 6 weeks ago, I woke up from a 9-hour spinal surgery. The first thing I saw on my phone was a barrage of missed calls. Still groggy from the anesthesia, I listened to my father's voicemail. His tone was nonchalant, as if what he was about to tell me was no big deal. "We sold your apartment to pay for your sister Bella's wedding. You were out, so we signed for you. $425,000 gone." Bella's wedding was just 3 weeks away. I could barely move my legs, which felt like they were attached to someone else. But lying in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, I knew I had to take action. Let me take you back a bit further. I've always been the responsible one in my family. My parents own a small, local business, but they've always struggled to make ends meet. My younger sister Bella, who is 26, has been a social media influencer for the past 3 years. She has around 15,000 followers, most of which she bought. She's never held a real job for more than a couple of months. When I was 28, I managed to save enough money from working long hours at a marketing firm and doing freelance projects on the side to buy my own apartment. It was a small place in the city, but it was mine. It represented years of hard work and sacrifice. When I told my parents about it, my mother's first words were, "Why didn't you help Bella start her own brand? She needs the money more than you need an apartment." Fast forward a few years. I've been suffering from a herniated disc in my spine since I was 30. The pain was excruciating at times, but I kept working because bills don't pay themselves. Finally, I got the news from my doctor that I could schedule the surgery. When I called my parents to tell them the date, my mother sounded distracted. "Oh, that's the same month as Bella's wedding planning. You'll have to figure it out on your own, dear." She hung up before I could say another word. The week before my surgery, I made all the arrangements myself. I hired a home care aide, pre-cooked my meals, and moved a bed to the living room so I wouldn't have to climb stairs. Meanwhile, my parents called me multiple times, asking if I could contribute to Bella's wedding fund. "It's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime event, Alicia. The venue alone costs a fortune," my mother gushed. I reminded her that I had already given them some money for the engagement party. But she said it wasn't enough and that I should be more supportive of my sister. I told her I was having surgery in a few days and couldn't contribute anymore. Her tone turned cold, and she said they'd figure it out without me. Unbeknownst to me, my parents had been planning to sell my apartment for weeks. They found a cash buyer and forged my signature on the necessary documents, timing everything to coincide with my surgery. When I woke up to that voicemail, I was in shock, but also filled with a cold, determined anger. I called my father a few hours later. His defenses were up immediately when I confronted him. "We were just doing what's best for the family, Alicia. Bella deserves a beautiful wedding, and you'll earn the money back," he said. I told him what he did was a felony, that he had stolen my home while I was fighting for my life on the operating table. He got defensive, saying that families should support each other, and that what he did was for the greater good. My mother called me later, scolding me for being selfish and ungrateful. She said I was ruining Bella's special day by causing a fuss. I asked her if she knew who owned the house they were living in. They had no idea that 5 years ago, when they were on the verge of losing their house to foreclosure, I had secretly bought it. I had used an LLC to keep my ownership anonymous. I did it because I still loved them, even though they never seemed to appreciate me. I also reached out to my only trustworthy family member, my Aunt Geraldine. She's 68, a retired schoolteacher. She was furious when she heard what my parents had done. I asked her to keep a secret for 3 weeks and told her about my plan to expose the truth at Bella's wedding. She was hesitant at first, worried about the consequences, but she promised to support me. A few days after surgery, my lawyer, Mr. Thompson, came to my hospital room. He told me that reversing the apartment sale would be difficult because the buyer was an innocent third party. But he also informed me that I had the option to file criminal charges against my parents and that the lease on my parents' house was set to expire a week after the wedding. I told him to draft an eviction notice and I decide when to serve it. 1 week before the wedding, Bella called me. Her voice was full of fake concern, but I could sense the venom beneath it. She accused me of upsetting our parents and said I was trying to ruin her wedding out of jealousy. I asked her if she knew where the money for the wedding was coming from. She stammered and tried to deflect the blame, but I knew she had a hand in it. She had pointed my parents to my apartment, knowing I'd be unconscious during the surgery. The next day, Bella posted a sob story on her social media, painting me as the villain who was trying to destroy her happiness. My relatives started calling me, scolding me without even asking for my side of the story. I didn't respond. Instead, I saved all the screenshots, knowing they would be useful later. 2 days before the wedding, there was a rehearsal dinner. I was in a lot of pain, but I knew I had to be there to see the situation firsthand. When I walked into the restaurant, the room went silent. My mother forced a smile and said they didn't think I'd make it. My father avoided my eyes. At the wedding, the venue was a luxurious mansion. It was filled with expensive decorations and 200 guests, all there to witness Bella's perfect wedding, paid for with my stolen money. I arrived with Aunt Geraldine. We were dressed in simple black outfits, a stark contrast to the opulence around us. During the reception, my father gave a speech about family sacrifice and how everyone had contributed to make the wedding possible. Then he invited me to say a few words. I slowly made my way to the front of the room, using my cane for support. The room was silent as I took the microphone. I started by saying, "You're right, Dad. I have contributed a great deal to this wedding. 6 weeks ago, I was on the operating table for 9 hours, having major spinal surgery. While I was unconscious, you sold my apartment, my home that I worked so hard for, without my consent. You forged my signature." I pulled out the documents to prove my point, causing gasps to ripple through the crowd. Then I said, "But that's not all. I also own the house you've been living in for the past 5 years. I saved you from foreclosure, but you repaid me by stealing my home." The room erupted in chaos. My father tried to deny it, but Mr. Thompson, my lawyer, stepped forward to confirm everything I said. Bella's fiancé, Ethan, was shocked. He realized that the money for the wedding had been stolen. He confronted Bella, and she had no answer. Ethan's parents were furious. They demanded to speak with Bella privately. Bella was in tears, realizing that her perfect wedding was falling apart. After the chaos subsided, I made it clear that I didn't do this for revenge. I just wanted the truth to be known, and I wanted to be treated like a human being. I walked out of the room, and the crowd parted for me. In the days that followed, the news spread like wildfire. My father was put on administrative leave from his job, and my mother lost all her social circles. Bella's influencer career took a nosedive, and her real followers started unfollowing her. Ethan filed for an annulment, and his family demanded the money back that they had contributed to the wedding. 30 days after the wedding, I received a call from my father. He sounded defeated, asking for more time to find a new place to live. I told him he had 4 years to appreciate what I had done for them, but they chose to betray me. I hung up the phone, feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. 2 months after the wedding, I visited my parents' former house. It was empty, and I felt a pang of sadness. I decided to rent it out to a young couple, and the rental income would go to a charity that helps victims of family financial abuse. 3 months after the wedding, I saw my mother in the park. She looked older and more tired. We sat on a bench in silence for a while. I asked her if she was okay, and she started to say something, but then she just shook her head. I told her to go home as it was getting cold. She left without finishing her sentence. I've learned that setting boundaries is not about revenge. It's about self-respect. Family doesn't give anyone the right to hurt you, and sometimes, walking away is the most loving thing you can do for yourself.